Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another fresh out of the movie theater edition of Wade Watches. I'm Wade, and today, for the second time, I just got through watching Michael. I did see it opening weekend, and before I could film this review, I just wanted to check it out a second time because sometimes, every now and then, I just need to watch something twice before I formulate a firm opinion on it, and that was definitely the case with Michael. And having just seen it for the second time, yeah, it's enjoyable. It's nothing more than that simple, by the numbers, feel good musical biopic that happens to feature some monumental talent in front of the screen. Because, yes, the rumors are true. Jafar Jackson, for a film debut, is phenomenal. And yes, there were definitely moments, especially for the second time, where Michael was back. I wasn't looking at someone imitating Michael. I was looking at Michael Jackson himself. Absolutely deserving of being at least being considered for awards. Same with Coleman Domingo, man. I appreciated his performance the second time around. Not that I didn't appreciate it the first time, but the second time around, it just really stood out to me, just like how he perfectly captured that controlling and domineering essence of Joe Jackson. And of course, the music's good. Watching Michael come up with the ideas, even though I'm sure that's not how it really happened, was very solid, very entertaining, all that good jazz. The performance sequences were beautifully directed and shot and choreographed. But like I said, it is still that, like, by the numbers feel good musical biopic, and depending on where you stand on that, like whether you despise stuff like Bohemian Rhapsody, Bob Marley, One Love, just more of those just like kind of like bare bones musical biopics, I'd say that really gauges how you're going to enjoy this. For yours truly, I happen to really enjoy Bohemian Rhapsody and Bob Marley, One Love. I know they're not on the same level as something like Ray or La Bamba or What's Love Got to Do with It, like really in-depth character study musical biopics that you're not just watching someone imitating a famous artist. You're really like getting into the nitty-gritty of who they are as a person, even in those films a lot of stuff is made up and dramatized for the sake of being entertaining. Whereas stuff like Bob Marley, One Love, and Bohemian Rhapsody, there's still some of that in there, but it really is more concerned with just being the crowd pleaser. You're seeing them come up with some of your favorite songs, and there's really not a lot of character development or deep in-depth analysis. And I'd say Michael kind of falls somewhat in between the two, but it leans more towards that crowd pleasing angle for sure. Because yeah, there are moments where you get the themes that are kind of like synonymous with Michael's life are explored. How lonely he was as both a child, a teenager, and a young adult. Kind of that feeling of isolation, that control that Joe had over him for too much of his life, too long of his life. That tragic angle is explored. Him, kind of wanting to relive his childhood because he never got a real one. That's all in there. But I'd say in very small chunks. This is predominantly watching him come up with the songs and then subsequently performing them, and celebrating Michael's life, his success, going over 3 decades of his career, because and I think this is widely known by now, they are planning a part 2. It does, so light spoilers, apologies for those of you out there who haven't seen it. Light spoilers, it does end by saying his story continues, so this isn't, I guess, the whole story that they're planning on showing. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And for what it is, I really did enjoy it more the second time around. It is bare bones. It does leave out a lot. I still say it breezes over too much. I feel like you could have like shown us a little bit more of what you had. But I do also understand that there were a lot of legal troubles. They had to cut out a lot from this film. Diana Ross isn't in here. They had to cut that out. They had to cut out Janet Jackson, one of the siblings. I believe she didn't want to be in this thing or whatever that was going on with that. And I know for certain that, and this would make sense in the second part anyway, because this stops, in the late 80s. But I know that they're not going to be able to depict the child molestation allegations because the people involved in that case, not the Michael Jackson estate, but the people involved in that case said that they don't want to be depicted, and it had been filmed, but we're not going to see that either. So you have all those legal troubles that you have to dance around with this sort of thing. I get it, I understand, so I'm not too annoyed with it for leaving a lot out. I'm content with the story we got, but I'd be lying if I said it blew me away on the same level as something like Straight Outta Compton, where that definitely took a lot of liberties too, but it just manages to be such an entertaining look at these musical artists' life. And I'll be lying if I said I was not disappointed with all that was left out here with Michael, because Michael Jackson, one of my favorite artists, huge Michael Jackson fan, so of course I can't help but hope for more. But then again, it's perhaps that bias itself, the fact that I am a huge Michael Jackson fan, that I didn't mind them leaving so much out, and I didn't mind them montaging through a lot. I still walked out of this having had a good time, having enjoyed myself watching this one. That's perhaps the reason why this does still work for me, despite all of its noticeable flaws. And again, I can say the same thing as a Queen fan for Bohemian Rhapsody, despite all the noticeable flaws in that film. Thoroughly enjoy it. I could say the same thing as a Bob Marley fan with the One Love movie, despite all the noticeable flaws, still enjoyed that film. So I'm saying the same thing about Michael. So yeah, if you're a huge Michael Jackson fan like me, I think you'll at least have a good time with this. I would try and avoid going in there with that historian mentality where it's like, why didn't they show this? Why didn't they show that? Because it's a film. Its purpose is to mainly entertain. So yeah, they're gonna omit some stuff. Yes, they're gonna make up some stuff for the sake of telling an entertaining story. You have documentaries for the nitty gritty and all the hardcore details, and there are some solid Michael Jackson documentaries out there. I've seen my fair share, and yes, because this is getting a lot of attention now that this is out and people are comparing the two. You also have the excellent TV miniseries, The Jacksons: An American Dream, which is really, really good. I definitely recommend that miniseries if you haven't seen it. But this is Michael's story. So yeah, if you're wanting the story of the whole Jackson family, go watch The Jacksons: An American Dream, But even with all of that being said, I still would like to have seen more. I do still think that they could have at least made this 2.5 hours, maybe even close to 3. I think 2 hours flat wasn't enough time to make this as impactful as it could have been. But all flaws aside, I thoroughly enjoyed Michael. I just chalk it up to another bare bones, crowd pleasing biopic that I definitely would not mind rewatching and watching on repeat, just like I do with Bohemian Rhapsody. So wrapping it up, I'm gonna go ahead and give Michael a solid 7 out of 10. Have you guys seen Michael? What did you think of it? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And what's your favorite musical biopic? Feel free to share in the comments below, and like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been another edition of Wade Watches, and I'll catch you lovely cinephiles next time. Peace.